We have Alejandra Torchia, the SVP of Technology, Global Infrastructure Solutions at Equifax. And today we're talking about something that is so key and so important. Since it sounds so simple, yet it's so difficult to do sometimes in the workplace, which is being ourselves. It's so difficult to be ourselves. So welcome, Alejandra. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for having this space to express who we are. So it's amazing that people can listen your podcast in different themes. So thank you for doing this, Ibna.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And it's so wonderful to have guests who have found their path in the corporate life and have been successful being themselves. So I'd love to hear just more about you, just a little introduction for our audience to get to know you a little bit better.
So as you mentioned, I am Alejandra Torchia. In Italy, Torchia. In Argentina, people said Torchia, but I am from Buenos Aires. I moved with my family 7 years ago. And it has been an amazing journey for my children, for my husband and I. We moved with a dog. Now we have a different dog. Life is changing. As you mentioned, I am a leader in Equifax, SVP Technology, Global Infrastructure Solutions across the globe. I work with different cultures, different people, which is amazing. How much you can learn from each culture. And also, I am advisory board of the ERG that we have in Equifax, the Women Advancing Technology. And also recently I joined as a board member of Star House, which is an ONG dedicated to guiding children to success. So a lot of work, a lot of experiences to share today. I'm excited.
Yeah, a lot of experiences. It seems like because your job probably takes up a lot of your time. And on top of that, you're engaging all these boards and other activities, plus family life, a full plate.
But this is because it's important, right? So you cannot be only putting all your energy in one basket, which is the work. It's very important, the work, but also as a human being, you need to cover other things, right? And for me to help to be actively doing things differently that can get my mind in thinking about different things, or helping other people to do things. The what he or she is amazing, because we have been promoting women, helping and educating, developing the power for them to feel that we are so valuable. So I think that all that things are amazing. And also I am participating in WIT, which is a great organization in Atlanta, Women in Technology. So I am learning as well, not only doing things for others, so receiving. So it's a balance. We are women. We can do all that things, right?
Yeah, a lot of these activities that you choose to participate in and do are a representation of who you are. It's your selection. So it's part of who you are. And another thing that's important for us when we want to be ourselves is to celebrate ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'd love to learn from you. What have you done throughout your career to celebrate your achievements? Because sometimes we shy away from celebrating and talking about and recognizing our own achievements, because it feels sometimes like we're just bringing attention to ourselves, and it's not something that we should do. It's not humble. How do you do that? How have you celebrated yourself and your achievements?
So first, I would like to start saying that I am working in workshops for I Am Remarkable. I Am Remarkable, I'm leading that workshop, right? I Am Remarkable is a global movement that empowers people to celebrate their achievements. Initially, this started with Google, and last year it changed to be managed by a separate, but still with the same objective. So regarding how I recognized, talk about and celebrate my achievement, it was a journey, right? Because, and it happened throughout my entire career. And it has a dependency in the culture that you are, and you are from Brazil, or you know the culture very well. And Latin culture is not so independent for people, having them to grow with a strong confidence, as you can see in the US, right? In Latin America, the story is totally different. Of course, at the beginning, I thought, no, I don't need to say how good I am. People will recognize that. And this is not happening, right? So what I learned, and I learned late in my career, this is why I want to help people at the beginning of their career. You need to recognize and say in a loud voice who you are, what wonderful you are, what remarkable you are, all the talents that you have. And say it in a loud voice, because no one will recognize all the things if you are not talking, if you are not saying it, if you are not recognizing the talent that you have. So it's very important that everyone can celebrate their own achievements.
Yeah, Alejandra, it's interesting that one of the things that I started thinking about, just like you, initially there was this expectation that people would recognize me for what I did, but that I realized that was actually putting a burden on other people. That in reality, you're making their life difficult. Even if it's your boss, you're making their life difficult by expecting them, having this weight, assigning them the responsibility to notice everything you're doing and to recognize you for it, instead of taking responsibility for that and helping them out, making it easier for people to understand what you're achieving. So I think that it's actually quite helpful when we do self-promote, and it's selfish when we don't, and we have this expectation that people will just notice what we're doing, that we're that important, we're the center of the world, everybody's noticing what we're doing all the time. And I think it helps break through. And I love that initiative. And I would love to know, for you, what have you done when you were initially expecting people to recognize you? What caused the shift? And share some of those initial moments where you did communicate what you were doing, and how did it felt? How was it received? And what did you learn from it?
I want to share something that I'm sharing in the workshops with people, that when I finished my career, I had a big title and no experience. And in my country, it's not like it is in this country with kids, that you have a system that is helping, promoting, enlightening people in college, right? So in my country, it was not in that time, in that way. Inclusive today, I don't think that is so good as it is here. But when I finished my career, I have been working, I pay for my university, and so I work doing whatever, not directly with my career. So when I finished, I said, okay, what I will do now, right? And one friend from the university, she told me, I have a known that he has a small consultancy business. If you want, I can ask him to give you an appointment or a meeting to talk about your career with him. And I went, I was 22, 23, and I went to that meeting saying, I do not have experience. I have a very good university title, but I can tell you that I will do whatever it was necessary to do the job, and you will be proud of me. So he gave me the job, okay? And I was right, because I started learning as a programmer, and then when I had a break, I was asking to people that were uploading data, can I do your job? Okay, instead of having a break, and I learned, I developed myself, and this is who you are as a remarkable person. Because of course, I had the belief that people need to recognize who I am, and they do not. It's a wrong assumption. And self-promotion is very important. And it's something that, as I mentioned, in the cultures, not all the cultures are facilitating or developing people in the same way. I think that what is important is that you can recognize that you need to, you have a voice, you are responsible for talking a loud voice, for saying it without expecting recognition. We do not need people recognizing us. We need to recognize ourselves. And we need to be aware about all the things that are around this situation, not only because the bias, there are many bias. The bias goes around also, right, that the beliefs in a culture, all the beliefs in the family, right? And probably if you studied a career that is not in alignment with what your parents or your family expected from you, how you will say that you are remarkable. So there are many things that should be considered, but there is one which is the most important, which is you and your talents. And you need to, everyone has a unique talent.
That's so interesting that you said you need to say it. You need to recognize your own achievements and recognize yourself more so than expecting others. And I like that. I like that you say you need to self-promote, but not expecting others to recognize you. If it happens, great, but you don't expect it to happen. But we need to expect to recognize ourselves. That's so well said.
Yes.
And I'd love to learn from you because you've been organizing these I am remarkable meetings in your company. I'm sure you first heard many incredible stories of transformation. And second, I'm sure you've learned a couple of things just by observing it and running these workshops, maybe on how people have changed their perception around this, or what's a great way of celebrating your own achievements.
Yeah, because everything is around perceptions. Not everything. Listening people is amazing because you can listen the same story, repeat it and repeat it. It's like that in a culture. I am giving that workshops in Spanish. So I am talking with people in Spain or people in Latin America, Central America. I can do it in English. To speak in the language that is your natural language is better because you don't have filters. The only filter is in your mind, right? Not in your language. And it's amazing because as women, we have so many talents and skills that we need to recognize our value and the beauty of being a woman. And not necessarily we are aware of that all the time. And if you are young, probably if you were not influenced for your family or you are not feeling confident, not necessarily you will be aware of that. We are set to be a mother and work, right? That's an incredible power and do everything with no limits. We are multitasking, right? We can do many, and we are smart as well, right? So it's critical that we can recognize the place that we have on this earth. And once you are aware of this, how will you not to be able to recognize how amazing you are? There is no way. So an achievement, not necessarily something big that you need to say, hey, I built a bridge. No, it can be small things, right? And in fact, you need to start recognizing small things that are really achievements for you. This is why creating an important impact on you or other people, but still is an achievement. And tips that we are sharing in the I Am Remarkable workshop, you need to be focused on to recognize your achievement, which means that you need to be alert looking at you. Okay. Number 2, share your achievements with others. It's so important that we can have a network, not only to speak about the achievements that I have, but also to know, okay, tell me what's your achievements. And if I am reading, as an example, in LinkedIn that Ibna did a great podcast, link it, right? It's so important that we can support each other. Additionally, we need to be encourage others to recognize how amazing they are. Sometimes women, maybe we are not supporting each other. It's extremely important that we can create that solidarity between women, and you need to take notes of your achievements and read it and create a roadmap and be more aggressive defining objectives, because it's a muscle that we need to develop and not necessarily will be comfortable at the beginning, but you can make it. practice and more practice.
It just brought so many things. So one of the practices that I just started with one of my accountability partners that I meet up every week virtually is we just did it. We had 1 hour and we recorded her achievements where she was telling me and I was cheering her on her achievements from last year and her more aggressive plans for this year. And then the next call is the opposite, where I was sharing my achievements from the previous year. And then we were talking about my plans for this year and recorded so that we could listen to it, but also having the other person celebrate us along and cheer us and remind us of the things that we achieved that we don't remember. And it's right. It's so funny how if we don't do that, we completely forget and we don't feel proud of ourselves.
Yeah, and you lose perspective, okay? So it's so important in our life for everything to have perspective, right? A holistic view of things. If you do not have a roadmap with your achievements, how you will recognize everything that you did. So I know that it's hard because we are in the middle of so many things, but if we can build that roadmap for products, for technology, for whatever we want to do in our lives, why we cannot build that roadmaps to track our progress and everything that we are doing. So it's something that I invite everyone to do.
You said be more aggressive defining objectives. And it's easier to be more aggressive when we take note of our achievements, which is what you said. I'd love to take that on and transition to something else, because a lot of times we avoid as women the word aggressive, but I love how you put it here, aggressive in our objectives and our goals. And I know I've seen you talk about influence, power, and ambition. Sometimes women shy away from those words. I'd love to know more about what you think about those words, how you relate to those words, especially in your career. So influence, power, and ambition.
Wow, are strong words, right? I have a lot of ambition, personal ambition in my life. And that ambition is driven by my values, okay? Which is good because the ambition alone can be tricky and can move you to spaces that I don't want. So my values are containing that ambition from a foundation point of view. So this is why this is a good combination. And the power, in my view, is the internal power, who you are, right? Because the official power that comes from a work title can evaporate so easily. If you identify too much with the work title, what will happen if you lose that job? I remember that I worked for a company and the CEO, that she was a woman, very smart, very strategic, with excellent skills. And she left the company, right? And we know that this is not maybe a decision that she's doing, it's a negotiation. And I remember the insight that I had in that moment. I said, if she is experiencing this situation, we are all walking to that place in any moment in our lives. So we need to be prepared because our career titles is something that can easily be evaporated. So is the power, if your internal power, the real power, that in combination with your title, you can do fantastic things. But the influence is a muscle that we will develop throughout all our career, okay? And real influence for me needs an emotional maturity, an awareness between the difference to influence someone or manipulate someone. I love to work with attorneys in my work because they have the exact words when you want to understand something. They have the exact words to define things, right? And in my view, the difference between influence or manipulate, how the feeling that you have is the intention. What's your intention? Because definitely the influence is something that is a thin line between these two. But for me, influence is driven by my values and by my heart. And when you are trying to be an influential person, you need to listen with your heart, because not necessarily all the things can be understood with your mind or observed, right? So there are things that are more subtle, and you need to have that perception developed in order to capture the entire situation. I don't know if I'm explaining what I want to say. For me, it's a different thing.
So you mentioned values twice. You said values drive your ambitions, and you consider yourself an ambitious woman in the greater sense of things. And you also talked about how values, they also dictate your intention and your influence. So your values seem to be a very strong foundation of who you are. And so I'd love to learn more about, if you would be willing to share some of your values with us.
Yes. So for me, what is more important, and this is not from now that I am an old woman, right? This is when I was a teenager, right? One day I discovered, okay, what's my mission in my life? I want to be a good person. I want to be a good person. And the meaning of this, I want to be a good person, was changing throughout the life, of course, in a good way, right? But increasing and incorporating new perspectives and more awareness and incorporating more things. But for me, this is the foundation, okay, of who I am, to be a good person. Authenticity is very important. And you can be in a powerful position, talking about a title, right? And be a good person. These two things are not contradictory at all. When you use your power and influence together in this way, the results may be exponential. It's incredible. And as your natural talents are guiding what you are feeling, thinking, and doing, you don't need to be fake, appearing to be someone that you are not. This is not necessary, at least to me, right? And you are facing every challenge being who you are with integrity and trusting that you will do the best thing. I put everything in my chest. It's like you can face whatever is coming with your chest open to receive that challenge, because you know that sooner or later the response will be based to do the right thing based on who you are and what are your values in your life. It's hard, it's very hard, but it's so nice.
You discovered early on that you wanted to be a good person, and how power and influence, at least for me, I want more power and influence right now, because I know that power and influence magnifies who I am and the impact that I'm trying to have. If I have no power and influence, it's hard for me to help hundreds of millions of people, which is what I want to do. I need that power and influence. So like you said, one thing does not contradict the other. It just magnifies your intention and who you are, and the goodness that you want to bring forward to yourself, to others in the world, to your family, to the extended group of people, to the community. And you don't have to be fake. Have you ever been fake in a situation and realized, like you said, I'm not
No,
having
and you know
integrity?
what? No, and you know why? Because I cannot. You can see everything in my face. So I am transparent. So fake is something that I cannot do. I should go to a theater school for many times to understand how to be a person that. But the thing is that I don't need that. I don't need. However, you can be more polite saying things. This is not meaning that you need to be so no filters, right? So you can say, and I learned throughout the time how to say hard things in a way that can be listened, because if you are walking for the life saying things that no one wants to listen, you will be alone, right? But I think that we can tune ourselves, we can clean the language, we can be tough, working with ourselves, emotionally talking, in order that we can say bad things in a good way that can be listened, which is not making you fake, which is making you someone that is realistically helping someone to understand a concept. or something that is going wrong.
That's such an important distinction there. That's such an important distinction because a lot of people will just say what's on their mind with no filters, hurt people, and then say, oh, I'm just being authentic, I'm just being myself. But in reality, that's not it. There's a distinction there. And I think you shared it very nicely. And you said sometimes we have to have these hard conversations or say things that people might not like, but we can say it in a more productive way. One of the things that I saw you talked about at some point was biases, right? You've experienced biases for sure.
Yeah.
As a woman at your level, it's happened. So how have you personally dealt with that in a way that was still authentic and was leading to a better situation?
Yeah, and said, because listening to you, it came to my mind that situations where the bias appeared, there were many, as you said, right? But I have faced bias many times. Early on, I realized that I would not accept it, even changing my personal situation and taking risks to break that bias. And this happened, you have, and I want to mix concepts, right? Because to make that hard decisions to say, okay, I do not want to be part of this, I do not want to work in this company anymore, I want something different for me, and you are earning a lot of money and you are a support from your family, or as I supported my mom and my brother for many years, and I continue doing that. So to make that decisions are hard decisions, but I made it. And I decided to leave the company with no job. And this was not in my 20s. But there was another situation in which I experienced bias again, and I faced it. And I had that difficult conversations that not necessarily you will be comfortable, okay? And particularly if that conversations that are hard, you have to get with men, the energy that we have is totally different. I can have the conversation at the same level aggressively. This is not what I want. And then when the conversation is finished, you feel that you are destroyed because we have a subtle energy. We are not done to fight, okay? We are done for different things. But sometimes you have to make choices, and sometimes you can leave, and sometimes you have to stay. And I did this throughout my career. I don't need this anymore. I am working in different situations now, and the bias are around different things. But we need to be courage. We need to face the fear. We need to care people. We need to decide that bias is something that we can be doing. My children are saying, my husband and myself all the time, hey, what you are saying, why you are saying this, and we are learning all the time. So bias is something so important, but also is something that may affect our lives. So as leader, I am trying to work in the world, for example, helping people to educate them and communicate important matters about bias, as well promoting and celebrating women. When we are talking about gender, we need to women empowering women. That's the key. And another key is identifying and having allies, which are so important for women to develop and grow. And in I Am Remarkable, I am talking about all the bias, because I Am Remarkable is for underrepresented groups. So I'm talking about all the different biases that people can have, and we need to face, we need to celebrate achievements, we need to broken that bias together.
Let's talk about that internal power in the context of leadership.
Leadership. I don't think that there is one recipe to be a good leader. But for me, again, okay, a leader is a visionary. You need to define or have a view about where your organization or your work have to be. and you have to be contagious with your team in order that they can dream with you and believe on you, right? So visionary is something very important. Integrity, of course, integrity. Today, integrity is like a business as usual thing for many companies, but integrity, you have to do the right thing, and you have to say and do the right thing all the time. Honesty relies on your own moral compass and values to make decisions for the organization. So I am looking, always I'm thinking about do the right thing for the company, not for me. And sometimes I have to make choices to do the right thing for the company, even when for me it can be a pain situation, right? Accountability is very important. Accountability is what is the baseline for your branding, to build a strong branding, to be positive and resilient all the times, in all the moments. So accountability encourages productivity and execution. So communication skills, which is so important, because in the middle that you, and if you are technical, oh my gosh, right? How to communicate important and complex matters in a way that can be listened at all levels. And talking about communication is also not to speak, it's to listen, and feedback, and how, and reading between lines are all about your body language, right? So communication embodies many things. And for me, to be empathetic is something that resonates with what is happening around people. Strong leaders show empathy by recognizing and considering their employees' feelings. And sometimes you need to make strong decisions, putting the people first, right? The person first. Resiliency, how you will transform yourself, how you will face all that things or difficulties in life, or difficult situations, and how you will transform that to be strong, passionate, right? You need to feel the love to do what you do. Passion is important because it's the engine that you have, and you are transmitting that passion to your teams. And then trust and confidence, right? Trust to effective leaders is key, because you can, if you don't trust, how you will do things, right? For me, it's critical. And confident, either have to make big decisions, and these decisions often come with big risks, right? As I made with myself in that situations. But in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. Theodore
I like
Roosevelt,
that.
right? So, summary about leadership.
So, Alejandra, from those: accountability, communication, empathy, resilience, passionate, trust, confidence, which of those do you think that most who aspire leadership roles are, where's the hugest gap in those?
This is a very good question. For me, sometimes I don't see many gaps. The gap that I see in me is communication. And communication also enclose the ability to communicate what your team is doing well, to expose yourself and expose others' work. So this is something that is not exclusive for women. Maybe we are doers, we are doing things and not taking the time to step up and say, wait. So we are doing all these things in a good way. So communication can be one that we can improve. Empathetic, we are so wise in many ways that we care about people. We are resilient because we work with ourselves. Trust is something that is very important in general for women. And confident is a gap, but this is what we talk about, right? With I Am Remarkable. We need to believe on ourselves. We need to believe that we have a value. We need to believe that the fact that our gender is women is not meaning that we cannot be at the same table with men and have a voice, okay? But again, we need to believe. It should be in our mindset. We don't need to wait that someone is saying, hey, Ibna, you can talk now. No, you have to talk.
Love it. And my last question for you, Alejandra, in the lines of what you're sharing, the confidence, the trust in oneself and putting oneself out there. You said that as a girl, you changed and you developed the courage to go after what was important to you, right? Where did that come from? Because a lot of people struggle to find that courage to be themselves, to express themselves, to value what they contribute. How did you do that? Where did you find that?
This is another good question. And thank you for asking that, because this is part of who I am as well. I think that we have a big internal world inside us, but we are not using it because we don't know that we have it. We have it, right? So that's the that human beings are having. We need to reflect about ourselves. We need to know who we are. If I don't know who I am, how I can pretend that my husband, my children, my family, and probably this started when I was a girl, that I grew up in a family, all of them mental people, all of them, and I was the person with a big heart in the house, right? And during a lot of time, I believe that I had a problem, that I had an issue. And this is not because I'm not smart. This is because I am driven by different values, right? So this pushed me since I was very child to understand myself, to understand what happened inside me, and to know who I was. So when I decided or discovered, more than decided, that I wanted to be a good person, is because at that time, and I think that this happened to me in between 16, 18, it was very early in my teenage, right? But early because maturity comes later, right? What I discovered about myself is, oh my gosh, all the talents that I have. I don't care if my family is or not recognizing it. I am recognizing it. And when I went to that meeting, I was not guided by my mind. I was guided by my heart and probably by my perception, because I have a lot of perception as well. So when I had that meeting and I could say what I said and I got the job, it was not guided by a preparation, mental preparation. No, it was guided by my internal power. So when I'm talking about you have a unique talent, you have an internal power, this is about who you are as a person. And you need to know, everyone needs to know who you are as a person.
That
This
makes
is
so much
what it,
sense.
and it's, for me, it's the beauty thing. And I don't expect agreement. This is what I believe. This is who
Yeah.
I am.
The internal power that you were talking about, when you know yourself, you know your talents, you know your values, and you know what you want. And those things drive your courage, your voice, your ability to speak up and talk about what you're achieving, what your team is achieving. And it all builds in itself and guides us in the direction that is ultimately us being ourselves.
Yeah, and respectful and taking care of other people. For me, it's important to care about people, help people, and be there for them. So I have a big team in many different countries. And for me, if someone from Australia is sending a chat, I am available because I care.
You care. And you also said that you didn't care about how the other guy responded, but it's interesting because you care about people, but you're able to focus on yourself. And when you speak up and not care so much about how other people respond, which gives you courage and helps you be more of yourself. This has been fantastic. It's everything at the end just ties together. Thank you so much for sharing your life and career and being yourself journey, Alejandra. If the audience wants to learn more about you or talk to you, where can they find you?
I am in LinkedIn, so Alejandra Torchia, I am available. They can send me a message.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
No, thank you to you for giving to me this opportunity. I prepare all these things, looking internally again, back in time to see, because it's important to be also authentic with the
Oh,
data as well, right? Accurate data. Thank you. And thank you for having this place, as I said at the beginning, for people to listen. This is very helpful.
I appreciate it.